Hey everybody, I'm Jayem and welcome back to another video where we look at the viability of Pokemon in Draft League. This episode, Zygarde 50%. The first thing you see when you look at Zygarde is its pretty well rounded stats all across the board. It's got 3 stats at or above 100 and 2 more very near it at 95 there. Its bulk especially is very remarkable with 108 HP, 121 defense and 95 special defense, meaning it can take all sorts of hits from all sorts of Pokemon, and this is backed up well by its decent defensive typing of Dragon Ground. It's only weak to Dragon, Fairy and Ice, but you do have to be wary of that ×4 weakness to Ice. On the offensive side of things, it's got 100 attack and 81 special attack and 95 speed, which is more than enough to work with, though it often needs a boost to get up to those really powerful levels. Luckily for it, Zygarde does have that ability. Speaking of ability, it's useless. Aura Break is terrible. It has absolutely no usage in Draft whatsoever, so it might as well not have one. It does have a much better ability in Power Construct, but unfortunately that's banned, and quite frankly for very good reason. Looking at its moves, there's only really one move you need when it comes to Zygarde, and that's 1000 Arrows. That base 90 power, 100 accuracy ground type move with a very special ability to hit absolutely anything. Flying, levitating, air balloon, doesn't matter, Zygarde hits it. And that means that Zygarde has an edge over a lot of other ground types because it can absolutely destroy top tier threats like Celesteela, Zapdos, Skarmory. All of them absolutely hate Zygarde. It's also got decent coverage options as well with things like Superpower, Crunch, Stone Edge, Iron Tail and Sludge Wave, though it could be better when it comes to coverage options. It doesn't have any sort of fire option, and Rock is generally its best, but that tends to be quite inaccurate. However, it also gets access to a very important move in Extreme Speed, which is bar none the best priority move in the entire game except maybe Sucker Punch. But anyway, it can outspeed pretty much anything it wants to, including other priority users, and that 80 base power hits very hard. You do have to be wary of it's only 8 PP, which means you can be PP stalled, and once that goes, you could be in a whole lot of trouble. Over on the coverage option, over on the boosting options, it's got Dragon Dance and Coil, which is more than enough. Dragon Dance gives it an edge over Garchomp, which often runs quite similar things to Zygarde, but having Dragon Dance means it can boost its speed and attack up to very impressive levels, and its bulk means it can easily get them off. Coil can be used if you want to focus on a more defensive side of things, and behind a substitute that can make Zygarde very hard to deal with. It's also got decent utility options with things like Haze, Glare, and Dragon Tail for phasing and just getting rid of things. Glare is bar none the best paralysis move. It is able to paralyze electric types and it can't miss. It's also got access to some other moves, including Block and 1000 Waves. You don't normally see or use 1000 Waves, but it acts as a trapping move and it can work well in certain situations. There aren't many situations where you need to trap with a Zygarde, but if you want to, you have the option. Now, why would you want to draft Zygarde? Basically, you like spamming arrows at things. 1000 Arrows is a really, really good move, because it's only really blocked by bulky bugs, of which there's about 3, and grass type moves. Unfortunately, grass types, yeah, Zygarde really doesn't like them at all, because it hasn't really got anything to deal with them apart from Sludge Wave. And if you're running Sludge Wave, it means you have to drop either Adamant or Jolly, and it goes in a whole heap of things, and basically you're going to want another Pokemon to deal with those. It also counters very high tier threats like Steela, Zapdos and Skarmory, as I previously mentioned. 1000 Arrows really does do a huge amount of work for it, and it allows it to be viable against basically anything. It's also got a decent amount of versatility, which means it's not a one-trick pony. It can act as a sweeper, a wall. If it had some sort of recovery option, it would be pretty good as a tank, but unfortunately it doesn't really have that outside of rest, unfortunately. It can rest talk, and it is a viable user of that, especially with access to Dragon Dance and the ever popular 1000 Arrows, but unfortunately it is a little bit lacking in coverage options. Also, its typing makes it a very, very valuable user of the Fairy Dragon Steel core, and it means it can easily fill a role in basically any team. You don't have to babysit this thing, you just throw it out and it does the work for you. Here you can have a look at some sets here. These are some fairly standard ones. You've got Choice Band, which is quite common, especially since Zygarde it's quite fast. It's not quite in the upper echelons of this tier list, but it's still fast enough to make it happen, and Choice Band or Choice Scarf both work very well on it. Nothing wants to take a banded 1000 arrows, and a banded extreme speed can often deal a lot of damage to things that aren't expecting it. The most common set is probably a Dragon Dance Sweeper. We've gone for a Fidgy Berry here because that allows it to recover half of its HP rather than just the slow recovery that Leftovers offers. Basically, this is a very quick, very viable, I'm just saying words, it's a very prominent user of Dragon Dance. Outrage. Oh yes, that's something I forgot to mention earlier. Unfortunately, it's lacking a little bit in stab coverage because aside from 1000 arrows, which is fantastic, its only physical options for Dragon are Outrage and Dragon Tail, both of which really aren't that good. Outrage is very powerful, but it does lock you into that move, and it means you can essentially be a sitting duck if someone has a fairy type. Also, you can make use of its powerful bulk with the subset, with moves like 1000 arrows, extreme speed, substitute, and coil. This allows it to bring it on something against a defensive Pokemon, like say a Gligar, get a substitute up, and then just coil away, and there's really not much they can do to you after that. However, you will have to be wary, as always, of Ice-type moves, which brings us on to the checks and counters for Zygarde. As you can see from its ground dragon typing, Zygarde absolutely hates Ice-type Pokemon. One of the ones I've highlighted here is Mamoswine, because it gets access to a very hard hitting Ice Shard, which will obviously outspeed Zygarde in most situations, and it's often bulky enough to take the hits that Zygarde can throw out. You want to be wary of things like Mamoswine. Also, the ever-present bulky water types like your Suicunes and your Slowbros, they can take the hits and hit back with Ice-type moves or Scald or other things that Zygarde really doesn't like. And also a pretty prominent threat, well not exactly threat, but just annoyance, are the Tangrowths. Your bulky grass types. Tangrowth in particular, because of its high defense and decent HP, means it just doesn't. Zygarde really doesn't like Tangrowth. The only situation that Zygarde can really deal with Tangrowth is if it's packing Sludge Wave, and we've been over that already. It's not great, and it means that Zygarde definitely needs some sort of team support to get the full use out of it. Which is why you're going to want new Pokemon that can take the Ice-type attacks, and also ones that can deal with the annoying Grass and Bug-type moves. One particular Pokemon I've highlighted is Heatran, because Heatran can take Ice-type moves like a champion, and also just get rid of those annoying Grass and Bug types, which means in conjunction, Zygarde and Heatran work incredibly well together. They're both tier 1, so if you might be a bit of a problem actually getting them on the same team, but if you can get them, it's really worth it. Aside from that, Zygarde really benefits from Spikes and Rock support to help make most of use of it, but then again, pretty much everything makes good use of Spikes and Rock support. And it can also benefit from electric and grass types. Obviously, the ever-present Koko, which is good on basically any team with any Pokemon, can make a lot of use out of it, and getting rid of those bulky water types will be very useful, which is why we've highlighted Zygarde, but you can also have things like Zapdos or Zeraora, I guess. And as we've mentioned before, it fits very easily into most Fairy Dragon Steel cores. You really don't have to do a whole lot of work fitting Zygarde into the right team. It can kind of just slot in anywhere and just start doing work. It's one of the most versatile Pokemon you can fit in, and it really doesn't have a whole lot you can worry about. It's honestly a really good Pokemon, which is why we've given it the verdict of A+. Zygarde can fill many roles, it does its job very well, it doesn't fear much. You just have to keep track of those ice types. As long as you can do that, well, you should be set. This has been Jayem. Thanks for watching.